first, you know, on a strip of or spend the day or southern.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to get back to work. Thank you very much. I want to welcome all our guests to our public meeting, which is scheduled to start at 4 o'clock. Just a reminder that we are televised and we're web streamed. And if you do have a cell phone, as I checked mine, my sound is off, and if you could do that or just check it, that would help us not to be distracted or interrupted. I now officially open the public meetings held under the Planning Act and the Municipal Act. I advise those in attendance that the local planning tribunal has the power under the Planning Act to dismiss either an appeal to either the zoning bylaw and/or an official plan amendment if the appellant does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or does not make written submission to the Norfolk County Council before the zoning bylaw is passed and/or before the official plan amendment is adopted. Our first public meeting tonight is Staff Report DCS 1885. Gentlemen, I'm on page 97 of our agenda. An application has been received to establish a temporary use bylaw on the subject lands to permit a garden suite for a period of 5 years. Donald, Wendy, and Andrew G. have put forth the application affecting the lands described as 316 Charlottesville West Quarter Line Road. Who has this one? Kayla, are you ready to go? Oh, Alicia, you're not Kayla. Kayla's not. Oh, we'll get to Kayla later. Okay, Alicia, my apologies. Your report? Check my eyes.
So this is an application for a garden suite. The subject lands are 25 acres in size and front onto Charlottesville East Quarter Line Road. They contain a garden suite, a single attached dwelling, and some accessory buildings. The lands are zoned rural industrial, hazard land, and provincially significant wetland, and are designated agricultural hazard land and provincially significant wetland. Oh, whoops, I meant to click the mouse. This application would permit the existing garden suite on the lands. It has been there since 1998, so the opportunity for renewal is no longer available, and this is considered a new application. The same people are living in it, the need still exists, and the application conforms to the official plan and the intent of the zoning bylaw. Staff support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Thank you very much. I know the applicants are here. Wendy, you didn't bring Donald. I always called him Sandy. Oh, you've got Sandy. Okay, you're with us. Thank you. We'll get to you in a moment. First of all, questions from council on this report to our planning staff, please. Is there anyone in attendance this afternoon who wishes to speak in favor of this application? And of course, always, if the applicant would like to speak first, that is okay. Wendy, wish to speak? You're okay? Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of this application this afternoon? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak either in opposition or in general to this application? Anything from council? I'll need a motion to close this public meeting. Wells has moved, Columbus has seconded, that we now close the public meeting. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Staff recommendations in the report. Your wishes. Councillor Black, please.
Mayor Luke, I'd move the recommendation in the report.
That is for approval. Black has moved. Seconder. Height, please. Moved and seconded that the application of Sandy, Wendy, and Andrew G. 316 Charlottesville West on the quarter line at R1 St. Williams. This affects the lands of Lot 7 of Concession 1, the geographic township of Charlottesville. This is to amend our zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. The file number is listed, that it be approved as for reasons set out in the report, and that no public input has been received for this application and therefore is not part of our consideration of this decision. Discussion? Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. I would like you to go to page 109 now, please. Page 109. This is staff report DC 1801. An application has been received to consider an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to restrict the uses permitted on the lands for only stormwater management purposes and recognizes no frontage. Development of the lands is associated with the Westwood Trails plan of subdivision. Westwood Trails Development and agent IBI Group has put forth the application that affects the lands described as Part Lot 18 Woodhouse, and in the concession is the Gore, in the urban area of Simcoe. Shannon? Good afternoon, and Shannon Van Dalen is ready to give us her report. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon to members of council and public and staff. This application is with respect to an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for lands that are both zoned and designated agriculture. The subject lands are located along the west boundary of Simcoe, and the intent is to function as a stormwater management pond. The site-specific amendments will restrict the uses that are proposed or permitted on the subject land so that it recognizes only a stormwater management pond, and no future or no residential components are permitted on the subject lands. The zoning bylaw will also will also recognize zero frontage as the lands are part and parcel of the Westwood Trails condominium block that is located to the east. Through the circulation process, there was no comments or concerns raised by the members of the public or departments or agencies. With the policies, with the official plan policies, it is silent with respect to stormwater management facilities, and the use is permitted in all zones within the Norfolk County zoning bylaw. This is a bit of a change with respect to the proposed official plan, which will prohibit stormwater management ponds to be located outside of the urban area. However, the proponents are proceeding with the application at this time, and as I stated, the amendments will recognize that the use is only for the swim pond. Based on the foregoing, staff are recommending support of the application, and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Turn that on, and first I'll ask, are the applicants or the agents for IBI present? We'll get to you in a moment, sir. Thank you. Okay, questions to staff from members of council. I see Black and I see Oliver.
Shannon, did you say it's a swimming pond? This swims.
through you, Mr. Mayor. A swimming pond might be nice, but it is for stormwater management.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Just wondering, I have no problem with that, with the amendment, except when I read in the report seeking like further approval, I guess through site plan review, 71 townhouse units. How many are approved at the moment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is no approval for townhouses on that subject on the Westwood block. The block itself was approved for future development as part of the original subdivision. So the original subdivision put forward 9 single detached dwelling lots, which are located kind of at the end of Fernwood there, and then the proposed condominium block. There were some conceptual plans that were put forward originally with the subdivision, but there was no numbers that were approved through that process. So now the proponents have submitted a site plan, and we are reviewing that at this time.
Well, if I could say at the moment, I'm concerned about the numbers because there's no access to South Drive, and I understand that may not be coming forward anytime soon. So would planning staff be considering those numbers at a lower rate rather than a higher rate? You know, there must be a range, a maximum, minimum type thing, because the more you have, the more they'll have to go through the whole subdivision on Thompson Drive. So would staff be looking at that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are. Through the review, the density or the numbers that are proposed do comply with the official plan policies in terms of the densities. When you're looking at kind of a medium density proposal, such as the Westwood condominium block would be. And also through the site plan review, we are looking at a traffic study that was provided through that. So that looks at the numbers and the estimated vehicle counts and the road networks that are associated with it, and will be able to give us a better idea in terms of the numbers. We are still in that review, so I don't have a specific answer for you at this time, though.
Thank you very much, Councillor Black. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Shannon. Shannon, it wasn't clear to me from our report what percentage of this property, and I see from the report it does say it's 3.3 hectares or 8 acres. What percentage of it was actually going to be occupied by the stormwater management pond? I see you've put a map up on the screens for us. I gather that structure in the lower right corner of the block is the actual stormwater pond?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. Again, some of the technical aspects in terms of the size and the ultimate area for the storm pond is being evaluated through the site plan process and the functional servicing reports that have been submitted as part of that. But generally, that is the area in which it is to be located based on the topography of the lands.
Okay, thank you. And I can ask the agent, Mr. Mayor, possibly, because I don't imagine staff know, but the rest of the parcel from the air photo appears to be forested or somewhat forested now. Yes. I will be curious to know if there's any particular intended land use for the remaining acreage or just part of the swim or part of the stormwater buffer, but I'll ask the agent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Brunton, please.
Yes, I have some questions for the planner, but later, but just through you to Shannon. Where, I'm on page 117 of our agenda. Can you tell me where's the urban boundary line? Or can you?
Excuse me. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So on the screen, sorry, the mouse is, the urban boundary follows along the eastern edge of the subject lands. So the condominium block is located within the urban area, and then the subject lands are without. The urban boundary then proceeds southerly along the Westwood lands, across the adjacent property to the east, and then follows the rear of the existing lots along Oak Avenue.
So, well, I guess on page 117 is the only one. I'm trying to follow it on that map right up there on the wall where the... Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you... I guess the whole area in red is outside the urban boundary then? The whole area in red?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So the existing park that is located on Virginia is also outside the urban boundary, and then the lots to the north there on the court are located within the urban boundary.
Well, maybe I'll ask the applicant later, but I don't see how. I know how Thompson Road was serviced, but I don't know how the townhouses will connect to that pond. I don't see that connection in there. Maybe I'll ask that of the applicant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brunton. Councillor Columbus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the planner, your report indicates the development will have access via Fernwood Drive. Now, I can't find Fernwood Drive on the mapping in any of the maps, but is that roadway built already, or is it to be built? Or can you show us where it is, actually?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. That road, the extension of Fernwood, is not constructed as of yet. So it comes down with Thompson, and then it's a bit of a stub at the end here. So that roadway would be extended, and you can, on the concept plan here as well, it comes down to service the property, and then there is a bulb that is also proposed as part of the development to ensure that that property to the east has frontage as well and potential access opportunities.
Thank you.
Further questions? Mr. Arians, you're here. I'm now asking if there's anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of this application, and certainly the agent or applicant has the first say. Welcome, and sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be back in Norfolk. I was here, I think, 3 years ago on the Westwood development. Phase 1 is now registered and built, and those are the 9 singles along the existing court. These are the lands to the south that have been draft plan approved and always intended as a townhouse block, and the subject lands have always been intended for a stormwater management facility. Albeit outside the urban boundary, it always was intended. I view this application primarily as a housekeeping amendment to simply adjust your urban boundary to bring the storm pond into the urban boundary, because that's kind of a housekeeping type of thing that we as planners have to do every once in a while. The development consists of 71 townhouses. It's going through the site plan process. It'll go through a plan of condominium. And to answer Councillor Brunton's concern, if I can refer you to the screen, this is the pond area here, and we're blessed with extremely sandy soils, so we don't have a wet pond at all. The water will infiltrate quite quickly, and the overland flow route is along this road and coming down this street here, and then connecting into the stormwater facility, and then it will just discharge into the groundwater. The storm pond that is being part of the condominium development is not going to be owned by the municipality. It's going to be a common element owned by the condominium units. So there is no municipal maintenance. There's no municipal upkeep required whatsoever. It's going to be solely the responsibility of these 71 new homeowners. At the same time, however, the parcel for the storm pond is significantly larger than simply the utility function of the pond, and we are creating trails and walkways and sitting areas and benches and tying it into the land to the north. If you look at the air photo, Westwood Park is up in this area, and then there's additional open space lands that are contiguous to Westwood Park. So going from the park into this area, which is a further park dedication, and then into the stormwater management facility, there'll be an integrated park network and a series of trails and walkways that are proposed. As far as access from the townhouse block, you're absolutely correct. Right now, our only access is in this location, and that access will take that traffic through the existing subdivision to the north. Ultimately, however, as you can see on this drawing here, this street will be extended in an easterly direction. It'll connect through the Smith property and then back down in this location and connect here. So there will be a circuitous road network with alternate access, but it takes time for those other abutting properties to develop. So, Mr. Chairman or Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you may have. And again, I view this primarily as a housekeeping amendment.
John, Councillor Black first.
Mayor Luke, thank you very much, and John, thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree with you. It's I have no problems with this, but and this is the first of my knowledge that this will be kind of a park-like setting and trails and all that. That will be accessible to everyone, like the general public?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of our site plan agreement, we would enter into, a site plan agreement and dedicate easements and rights-of-ways and public access through the swim park as well, yes.
Okay, oh, well, that's great. And secondly, I'm glad that you pointed out that there would be a connection to the easterly Smith property.
Yes, sir.
And I think we've all been concerned about an ultimate connection to South Drive. And I mean, it would be great if we had that second entry exit. So can you say anything about that, or is just you're providing this, the Smith property, and would it be up to the Smith property, or would your development be involved in any type of future extension of South Drive?
So ultimately, sir, through the mayor, the Smiths are driving that bus. I mean, they control it, right? Rest assured, however, that our clients are seriously looking at that additional parcel. And in fact, when we designed the stormwater management facility, you can see we've got this straight route. We've designed the swim pond to accommodate the drainage from the Smith lands, already taking it into account, thereby bringing it that one step closer to reality, one step closer to development. So, ultimately it will be developed, hopefully sooner than later.
You're saying is this, you just indicated this line here, over to the Smith's property, and they could use or cross over your 71 condominiums and use the stormwater management pond.
We have sized the pond to accommodate the
That
Smith
development.
drainage, and we will accommodate that with an easement. It's not a free ride, of course. The Smiths will have to pay their proportional
Right.
share of that pond,
Yeah.
but the connection will be made.
Okay, well, that's, in my mind, good planning, so thank you.
It is, thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Brunton?
Yeah, just through you, Mayor Luke, to John. So the pond will be sized now for that property?
Through the
And
mayor?
are they going to pay at a later date if they go ahead? Is that your plan?
That's exactly correct, sir.
So you're asking for the county to look after that agreement?
I guess, you know, the county would use its best efforts. Notwithstanding that, I mean, we're sizing it to accommodate it. That's, you know, as the councillor said, that's good planning. You take a jigsaw puzzle and you make it work.
Okay, and so how big, what's that design on that pond, like for what frequency, do you know?
I believe it's the 100-year storm.
That's it?
Yeah.
And there's no outlet, it's a dry, you say it's...
It's a dry pond. It'll infiltrate back into the sandy soils.
Do you have any idea on the traffic that you're going to generate?
Through the mayor, 71 dwelling units. You know, what's the average? 5 trips a day, the journey to work and back. 1 or 2 trips to Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, soccer, baseball, what have you. 5-6 trips per day per dwelling unit times 70 gives you an idea, sir. 350 trips, perhaps 400 trips.
Yeah, I got a maximum minimum. I just wondered, it is a lot of traffic for that area, but
Yes.
So in the Smith, you say the Smith property, is that within the urban boundary now?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions for Mr. Arians? Doesn't appear any at the moment. Is there anyone in attendance this afternoon who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone in attendance this afternoon who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Anything further from this council? I'll need a motion to close this public meeting, please. Councillor Height has moved, Oliver has seconded that we now close the public meeting. Those in favor? Thank you. This public meeting is closed. You will see the recommendation of staff on the top of page 114. I await your direction. Councillor Columbus.
Move the recommendation as printed in the report.
Councillor Black, seconded. Columbus and Black, moved and seconded, that the application of Westwood Trails Development, 58 Kings Park Crescent in London, affects the lands described as part of Lot 18 in Woodhouse, Concession Gore. It's an urban area of Simcoe. This is to amend the Norfolk County Official Plan and the Norfolk County Zoning Bylaw 1Z 2014. The file numbers are printed, recommended for approval for reasons as set out in this report 18-101. Any discussion? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'm now turning to page 125 of our agenda. This is staff report DCS 18-94. An application has been received to allow 2 existing accessory buildings to remain on a severed parcel in the RH zone, requiring relief of section 3.2.1H to permit accessory uses on the property without the main residential use first being established, and relief of 52 square meters from the maximum 100 square meters usable floor area for all accessory structures on a property to allow 152 square meters. Rick Albrecht has put forth this application. It affects the lands described as 918 and 924 concession 6 in Waterford. I do now open this public meeting on 1894. Stephen Collier, I see you are here, and will you please present your report?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. This is a zoning bylaw amendment application to add a special provision to a newly severed lot in the hamlet of Bill's Corners in Townsend. The proposed special provision allows for the existing accessory structures before a dwelling is built and provides relief from the maximum usable floor area of the two buildings combined. Council previously approved this application on August 28th, and it was unfortunately discovered after the fact that proper notice of the public meeting, as required under the Ontario Planning Act, was not distributed in advance of that meeting. Planning staff had taken corrective measures and proper notice was distributed prior to this public meeting. No public comments were received and therefore not considered as part of staff's recommendation. This application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the Norfolk County official plan, and planning staff recommend that it be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Is the applicant, Mr. Albrecht, in attendance? There you are. Thank you. Before I get to you, I would ask council if you have questions of staff on this report, please. Is there anyone in attendance this afternoon who wishes to speak in favor of the application? And Mr. Albrecht, if you wish to speak, you may at this time. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in support of this planning application? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to the application? Anything else from council? Motion to close public meeting. Wells has moved, Geisens has seconded. That we do now close this public meeting. Those in favor? Thank you. Gentlemen, on the bottom of page 129 is staff's recommendation. Let me know. Councillor Sonnenberg.
We've received no objections. This is not onerous to anyone.
Hold on. I need a motion first. Do you wish to move this?
Yes.
You can stay on your feet. I'll get back to you. Do I need a seconder, Councillor Geisens? Stay on your feet. I need to read the motion. It's just procedure. Just so you know what you're talking about. Councillor Sonnenberg has moved, Geisens has seconded, that the application of Rick Albrecht, 924 Concession 6, Townsend, Waterford, affecting the lands of part of Lot 12, Concession 6 in the geographic township of Townsend, Norfolk County. This is to amend Norfolk County zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. The file numbers are there, and it's recommended for approval. Councillor Sonnenberg, to this motion, please.
Thank you. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there.
That's okay.
No objections from anyone. It's not onerous to anyone in the area. I will move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? I hear none. I'm going to call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. I'm turning to page 137. This is staff report, DCS 18-92. An application has been received to add a site-specific special provision to permit a place of sports and recreation and a place of assembly on the subject lands. E&E McLaughlin Limited has put forth the application. It affects the lands described as 547 Main Street of Delhi. We'll now open this public meeting, DCS 18-92. Kayla, I got the right one. Okay, you are Kayla. You okay? Kayla DeLay, thank you. I see you are in attendance, and please present.
Thank you. This is a zoning bylaw amendment application to add a place of assembly and a place of sports and recreation to the Delhi soccer fields. These uses had been taking place on the subject lands for many years, so this is simply a housekeeping matter to bring the property into compliance. Planning staff support the application and recommend it be approved.
Thank you very much, Kayla. Are there questions for this young lady? No questions to the planner at this time? Okay. Are the agents here or the applicants, McLaughlin's, in attendance? No? Okay. Is there anyone in attendance this afternoon who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to the application? Anything at all from council? Motion to close the public meeting. Wells and Geisens, those in favor? I now close the public meeting. The bottom of page, I can't remember, 140 something here. Bottom of page 140, thank you, is staff recommendation I await your direction. Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Councillor Columbus, seconds. That the application of McLaughlin on at 500 Highway number 3, Tilsonburg, affects the lands described as part lot, lot 10, block 41, plan 189, part of lot 4, lot 3, block 42 in the urban area of Delhi, Norfolk County, to amend the Norfolk County zoning bylaw 1Z 2014. File number is there. It's recommended for approval. Discussion. Councillor Columbus, please.
Just to say that this has been used as a sports field for over 40 years, so it's time it got proper attention. Thank you.
Other discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Page 147. This is staff report DCS 18-89. John Gregory Bradfield and agent Civic Planning Solutions have put forth the application affecting the lands described as lots 108 and 109. Plan 219. It's the geographic township of South Walsingham, Norfolk County, not to be within a plan of subdivision. I open the meeting on DCS 18-89. Stephen Collier, I see you are here to present your report. Away you go, please.
Thank you. This is a deeming bylaw application to deem 2 adjacent properties on Perch Lane and Long Point to not be within a registered plat of subdivision. The purpose of this deeming application is for the 2 lots to merge into 1 property. There is no public notice or consultation required for a deeming bylaw under the Planning Act, and planning staff support this application and recommend that it be approved.
Thank you. Questions from council to Mr. Collier? Not at this moment. Okay. Is the applicant Mr. Bradfield or Mr. Rowe here from Civic? No applicant, no agent. Then I will ask if there is anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in support of this application. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Anything from this council? Motion to close this public meeting. Black has moved. Height has seconded. Those in favor? Carried. I do now close this public meeting. Bottom of page 149, there is a recommendation. Councillor Height, thank you.
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir. Seconder Geisens. Height has moved. Geisens has seconded that. The application by John Bradfield, 1104 Cree Avenue, Woodstock, Ontario. It affects the lands described as lots 108 and 109. It's Plan 219 in Norfolk County. The lands are deemed not to be in a plan of subdivision. The file number is there, gentlemen. It's recommended for approval for reasons as set out in 18-89 report. Discussion on this motion. I hear none. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now I go to page, or I'm going to page 157. And here we have staff report DCS 18-93. An application has been received to amend the Lakeshore Special Policy Area Secondary Plan, Section 11.4.4.1, wineries, to include breweries and distilleries. The application also proposes to amend the Norfolk County zoning bylaw, agricultural A-zone, section 12.2.3, to include breweries and distilleries and add additional permitted uses within the A-zone. Norfolk County has put forth the application affecting the lands described as all lands within the county, and I believe, before I go to Kayla, that there is correspondence Should be on your desk. It was placed on my desk on this application. Kayla.
Thank you.
Did I get it right this
You
time?
did, yeah.
Again? Poor Alicia.
So this is an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application being brought forward by Norfolk County Planning in relation to policy changes for farm wineries, breweries, and distilleries. I would like to start off by noting that this is a proactive approach taken by Norfolk County Planning to introduce breweries and distilleries as a right on farms. During my research on this project, I note that Norfolk County is one of the first municipalities to propose breweries and distilleries as a right within the zoning bylaw. We understand the need for both on-farm diversification and protecting prime agricultural lands, and this has been reflected in our proposed policy. Secondly, this application also provides some general updates to farm winery provisions and introduces restaurants as additional uses on farm wineries, breweries, and distilleries. Any of these farm wineries, breweries, and distilleries with 20 acres of crops planted have increased flexibility. The purpose of this provision is to maintain the prime agricultural use and expand flexibility as the agricultural component increases. Minor site plans are required for these on-farm diversified uses. We have aligned the proposed policies with the guidelines set out by the province for permitted uses in prime agricultural areas. This ensures the size and scale is appropriate and that these uses are secondary to the main farm operation. Additional uses are proposed within the Lakeshore Special Policy Area Secondary Plan. These uses include concerts, wedding receptions, and banquet centers. And this update aligns with the current policies of our lakeshore area. Our policies support agritourism and resource-based tourism along the lakeshore. The uses are encouraged in this area, secondary to the main farm operation. Through consultation, I have heard from several members of the Wineries and Growers Association. Comments include concerns related to limitations on the 20-acre farm parcel size and of the additional uses that come for landowners within our Lakeshore Special Policy Area. Although we understand many of these concerns, it is important that we limit the size and scale. Any farm winery, farm brewery, or farm distillery wishing to do more than what is permitted as of right has the ability to apply for a site-specific amendment. And this site-specific amendment would provide for the public process and allow for public input. Overall, the proposed amendments are a proactive economic development opportunity as it relates to protecting prime agricultural lands. The proposed amendments will provide opportunities for sustainable tourism and development that respects the natural landscape. The amendments to add farm winery, farm distillery, and farm brewery and restaurants within our agricultural designation in the zone are consistent with the PPS, and planning staff recommend approval of the proposed policies.
Kayla? Well, the county is the applicant here, so I assume we're present. So I'll move on then and say, are there any questions of council? It's your one chance to ask a question and answer it. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Yes, sir. John?
Members of council, John Arians with the IBI Group, and first of all, let me compliment staff on this proactive report. I mean, clearly there is development interest in adding these to your zoning bylaws and your official plan. I'm here on behalf of Eco Adventures, who also own Burning Kiln, and also there is a group of investors who have assembled a parcel of land immediately to the west of the Burning Kiln winery, and we're in the process of coming up with a brewery application on that property. So what Brianne has just handed out is a guideline sheet from the guidelines on permitted uses. This is something that the province puts out to help it when we have a planning application in an agricultural area. And the whole purpose is to identify what is a farm use, what is agriculturally related, and what is a on-farm diversified use. And what the staff report has done is it's focused primarily on the on-farm diversified use, which obviously involves a farm, and if you grow apples on that farm, you can have a cidery. If you grow hops and grain on that farm, you can have a brewery. But there are so many parcels in your Lakeshore Special Policy Area that are not farms who should have the same permissions and the same rights, and that's what I'm here respectfully asking you to do. When you look at this list, the second one down deals with small-scale microbreweries and distilleries. And under the second column where it says, is it agriculturally related, the province says, well, no, unless agricultural products from the area, example grains, are the main input and appropriate servicing, water and wastewater are available. So the provincial guidelines say, yes, it can be on a farm, but it can also be on a non-farm as long as you're using agricultural products from the immediate area and as long as water and wastewater services are appropriate. So while the staff report has focused on on-farm diversification, there are agriculturally related properties who should also benefit from this. So with all due respect, we are asking that this report be endorsed and supported and approved, but perhaps there could be a second direction to staff to also look at the agriculturally related components so that they enjoy the same rights and permissions as a typical farm would. Again, we're dealing with the Lakeshore Special Policy Area, which is your prime tourist designation area. Tourism is a big component of the economic engine of this municipality, and properties like Eco Adventures, who are not farms but are getting a brewery, should have the same rights as a farmer who potentially grows the crop. So those are my submissions. We welcome this report. We applaud staff for bringing it forward, but we ask you to go that one step forward and also look at the non-farm parcels. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for this gentleman from council? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, John, for your input. When you say you'd like to see it extended to non-farm parcels, would it be rural residential as well? Or, I mean, using your client's property as an example, it's a
Yes.
institutional or tourism use rather than a residential use per se.
That's correct.
Are you asking for just for the type of property that Eco Adventures represents, or any parcel anywhere in the Lakeshore zone that perhaps is physically big enough, i.e. residential or otherwise?
Through the mayor, I think, planning staff have to do some additional homework, but my recommendation would clearly be that I don't think it's appropriate for all residential parcels. Clearly there has to be a tourist component or some kind of other activity which will benefit from having the brewery and the restaurant and the small retail outlet. So I wouldn't open it up to all parcels, but certainly specific zones that have those tourist commercial facilities are ideal candidates.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in support of this application 1893? Is there anyone then in the room that wishes to speak in opposition or in general to this application? Yes, sir, if you would come down, please. And if you could state your name for the record.
Nick Franks, Ontario South Coast Wineries and Growers Association. So I think you guys got our correspondence letter on your desk late last week.
Yes, yes.
Do you want me to reiterate the whole letter, or do you want me to...
You can highlight it, or you can, it's really up to you.
Okay. So the Ontario South Coast Wineries and Growers Association is encouraged and supportive of this policy update from Norfolk Planning Department. It does definitely update a lot of things that need to be done. However, we do believe there's a few changes that need to be made to this policy update for it to be beneficial for all that are involved. We do propose that all farms over 5 acres related to the production of wine, beer, and spirits be given the special provisions of 12.2.5, and this would actually directly tie into what the AGCO already requires of a winery, which is 5 acres. We just felt like this will cut some of the red tape, and with the cost of growing grapes, it's already pretty costly to look at putting 20 acres in right at the beginning because you want to do all these other uses. So this really helps them put the horse before the cart rather than the cart before the horse, where they'll be able to build towards the size of the winery they need rather than have the grapes and try to figure out how to sell it all through other uses. We also look at eliminating the difference between the Lakeshore Special Policy and the areas outside of it. We just feel like it's unfair for the wineries, breweries, and distillers outside the Lakeshore Special Policy, just because there has been proven that grapes can grow well outside that special Lakeshore policy. So we would see more development for all these uses if we would open up all of the special provisions for everyone to be able to enjoy it. And we also would like to see on-farm stay and accommodations included because there's a lack of accommodations in the area, and it's about building tourism packages too for our clientele. So to help facilitate that need, we would like to see on-farm stay accommodations included too. It's just more about, making this easier, trying to give us all the tools possibly to make our businesses successful. We all began thinking that we're in the business of making wine, but we're seeing that it's been a big transition actually into the business of hospitality, and that's why we need all these other uses too.
Anything further?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions for this gentleman? Councillor Columbus first.
Yes, the on-farm accommodation, you would think then that should be across the whole county, not just...
It should be, yes.
Okay.
They actually did a report a couple years ago from Southwestern Ontario Tourism Corporation showing that there was a lack of accommodations in the area, and they're trying to look at alternative methods for accommodation. On-farm accommodation is one of them that they highlighted, that there's quite there's a chance there for Norfolk County, especially with the amount of farms and former bunkhouses or whatever, or homesteads that could be converted for these types of accommodations.
And have you ran these requests by the planning department?
Yes, we have.
This report? And what did they say?
They took it into consideration, but they still ran with the proposed draft that they presented us with first.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or in general? Yes, sir, please. You can come forward and state your name. That would be very much appreciated.
Hi, glad to be here to talk to this issue. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor and Council. And Kayla's stirred me up, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I guess that for introductions, my name's Phil Ryan. I'm one of the owners, along with the Farm Credit Corporation and my wife, of a small farm which has 10 acres of grapes on it. We're the oldest grape winery in Norfolk County, and we were here in 2006 to ask for permission to build. And to tell you about my background, I did not win a lottery. I was a civil servant, and my wife continues to nurse. And we have been building our farm the hard way. We had to go and get a mortgage and buy a farm and start producing things and try to make it work economically. And in this regard, I guess when I get roadblocks, what I perceive are roadblocks put in front of me, as far as our painful scratching to develop our farm and our business, I do react fairly strongly. I have a little handout. I'm going to pass it on to the councillors here. Thank you. Thank you. If someone could please give one to Mayor Luke. I guess that my little handout, some of it is encapsulated in the very nice letter that we got from our president, Nick Franks, representing the interests of the collective wineries in Norfolk County. The first thing at the top, I think I may have given away all my copies. Thank you. Need one back. Just to explain what's here. The top, thank you. What I call vineyard math. It costs, as Nick noted, $27,000 to establish and maintain an acre of grapevines. So the simple math across the top is for 5 acres, it's worth $136,000. 10 acres, 273, 270. I don't know where I came up with that money because I don't think